I can't tell you how many times I used to go through clogged airbrushes in the middle of a session and all of a sudden no paint comes out, or even after I've thought I've cleaned it, it doesn't work at all. So let me show you my top 5 ways I found out I can always have a clean airbrush. I'm going to start out with a couple bonus tips. One is to get a quick disconnect. Just attaches to the end of your hose, and the other end attaches to the airbrush, and you can just clip it in, and when you just pull the ring to remove, and then it's much easier to clean than having a brush attached. And often several of them have a valve at the top to adjust the airflow. This airbrush wash pot helps too. It can fit over the edge of a counter, but the airbrush sits in a cradle, and then when you can blow out excess paint and the fumes come out the holes, captures the paint without making a mess. So that was only like $11. Tip number 1 to keep your brush clean is use your thinner first, whatever the thinner is. In this case I'm using Vallejo acrylics, but whatever it is, put that in first, and then that gets down in the needle instead of the paint. The paint might just get a little too dry in there at the tip while you're getting it all mixed up. So then add the paint, whatever that is. That thinner first will keep it from getting clogged. Then I use Airbrush Flow Improver or Flow Aid of some kind. That also helps prevent the small paint particles from drying out on the tip of the brush. That's a common problem, but the airflow improver really helps that. Very inexpensive. Some people use it entirely as their thinner, but it's probably less cost effective than using normal thinners. I use a stainless steel stir stick. It has a little flat end, and that helps make sure everything's mixed together. And once I've done that, I'm ready to paint. You almost always have some paint left over. I used to put some cleaner in there and blow it out through the airbrush. But I use this homemade cleaner, which I'll put a recipe for in the description below. And then I get just a condiment squeeze bottle, real cheap from the grocery store, and put a little thinner in there. And rather than blow it through the airbrush, I'm going to stir it up a little bit, and then I'm going to just block the airway so that the air comes back into the bowl. It's kind of back flushing it. You can see the bubbles it creates. So that's pushing the air back into the needle, and dump the paint out. Don't blow it through the airbrush. Just more chances of getting pigment in there that can clog. Now that most of it's gone, I will blow out the paint that was thinned with the cleaner. Now I'll take a regular Q-tip and get it wet with the cleaner and clean out the inside of the bowl. Sometimes paint gets dried out at the top. If that happened to go down into the needle to try it when you're cleaning, it's a real good chance of clogging it up. So I clean the outside, the inside, around the nozzle with this Q-tip to make sure none of that sediment down into near the needle. Dump out any excess, and one more ring with a paper towel to make sure all the big pieces are gone. Now there's still a little bit of paint down there though. For that I use a pointed tip, Q-tip. You can find those on the internet, probably on Amazon. And that gets down in where the needle is, and you can see there was still a little paint left. So now it's mostly clean, but I used to think so, and then I'd have a clogged brush. The best tip I can give you is, and here's another good use of the quick release, is to disassemble the brush and put it in an ultrasonic jewelry cleaner. Just filled it with normal tap water. It's like $25 on Amazon for this one, and we used it many, many times. So I did take the airbrush apart, which I thought was a bit of a pain when I started to do it, or thought it would be. But really, once you get used to it, it can happen very quick. There aren't that many parts. But make sure the nozzle goes in the cleaner. Take out the needle. And another tip is to push the needle out through the front, not out the back. Otherwise, you'll drag paint through the back of the brush. You can see there's almost always going to be paint on that needle. So take a paper towel, a little cleaner, and then drag the needle through it until that's nice and clean. That's all you need to do. Always comes off easily. The tip of the needle is so fine and delicate, it's dangerous to put it in the ultrasonic device, or it might just damage it. Now we just take out the spring mechanism. In this case, it's a dual action brush, so there's a spring in there which just unscrews, comes out easily enough. And the plunger, make sure it's clean, which it usually is, and then just put the entire remaining part of the airbrush in there. And sometimes if you want, you can just add a little cleaner that has isopropyl alcohol in it, and that may help. And then start it. There's this one goes for about 2.5 minutes, or if you want, it can go for twice that. And the vibration does a fantastic job of cleaning out. One last bonus tip is I always do this over a cloth. That little nozzle is so small, you can see it here. If I were to drop that on a hard surface, it would disappear and I'd never see it again. So keep a cloth underneath your work and you're good to go. Hopefully you've learned this simple jewelry cleaner can make your life a whole lot easier. Get rid of those airbrush headaches and make your airbrushing sessions more enjoyable. So until next time, happy modeling.